Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight Sessions. I'm the host, Ilan Fisher, and I'm really excited to be having a chat with Bianca Shapiro, who's the COO of MyCareSpace, and also our first guest from Australia. How's it going, Bianca?
Yeah, it's great, Ilan. It's 6:47 a.m., so we're ready to rock and roll down here.
Love it. So, Bianca, I know that you've worked with myself, you've worked with Sheldon, and with the disability community in Australia at large, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with MyCareSpace.
Well, I think my story is a little unusual in that I don't have a family member that has a disability. I don't have a disability myself, like many people in the disability supporting businesses that support people with disability. But I had a web development company and a very dear friend who decided that she would ditch her very high-flying corporate career and start MyCareSpace when her mother went blind. And she pulled me in to actually build the platform. And by the time we finished building MyCareSpace, I had closed my own business of 20 years and joined her in MyCareSpace. So that's been a life-changing moment for me, and it's been nearly 5 years now, and I haven't looked back. So we're really achieving great things here in Australia.
I love to hear that. I love the meshing of the personal and professional. Bianca, do you want to tell us a little bit about what the work MyCareSpace is doing for people with disabilities in Australia and what the broader mission is, really?
Yeah, certainly. So MyCareSpace is a platform that connects people that have disability funding. And I might just say that in Australia, they changed the way that people have funding to support them. I like to compare it to, if you have kids or you were a kid at some point and you recall going to preschool and they brought out the morning tea and there were maybe little sandwiches. In Australia, we have Vegemite. I don't know.
It's Marmite where I grew up.
What about the US guys? What would they be? Peanut jelly? Peanut butter and jelly?
Peanut
maybe?
butter and jelly in the US and Marmite in the UK.
Okay, so they came out with this tray of sandwiches, and one of the teachers used her tongs to pop those sandwiches on your plate. And I remember very clearly with my kids when they were in preschool, they used to say, you get what you get and you don't get upset. So you had to be happy with whatever they put on your plate. And that is the way disability funding was in Australia. They had something called block funding. They gave people a set amount and said, here is your funding and you can spend it at that company. And that was it. There was no choice. There was no control. So they turned that upside down with what we call the National Disability Insurance Scheme that came in 2013. And that flipped the entire funding platform on its head in Australia. People were given funding and they were told they could spend it on whatever they liked. Now that's where the problem came in. Having had no choice for that long and no idea about what options were out there, how were people actually going to take that funding and exercise choice and control and use it however they liked? And that's where MyCareSpace came in. Nicole's mum lost her sight. She had funding, and they, as a family, academic, financially minded, with large corporate jobs, they struggled to find services for her mum. So they thought, look, there is no way that there must be millions of people that are having the same problem. So Nicole came to me with this idea of MyCareSpace to connect people that had funding with providers, to show them what services were available in their area, providers that had skills, that had experience, that had capacity, and basically to help people spend their funding on services that they actually want and need. So we created the MyCareSpace platform where the consumer is such, which would be an individual, their family. We have caseworkers here in Australia that support people with disability funding. They come to MyCareSpace and they tell us what they're looking for. And then we connect them with providers that we know, that we've spoken to, that we've verified, and that are in their local area. So we're like the middlemen. We connect people with that funding, the services and supplies they're looking for. And in many cases, we're actually helping people understand or discover options for that funding, because that's also half the problem, not knowing. It's still a government-based scheme. It's still very complicated, as most government-based schemes are. So we also help people understand what that funding means and what they can spend it on, and then actually connect them with those providers.
Wow, that's first of all amazing. Something that sticks out is I'm thinking as you're describing this, is this not something that was present before MyCareSpace, and that's really something that sticks out to me.
Yeah, not at all, because people didn't have that choice or control. They were allocated funding and they were allocated providers. And this new scheme is really quite remarkable in that it doesn't just look at what we call core supports. It's not just about personal care and support workers. It's much broader than that. People are given funding according to the goals that they have in their lives. And those goals might be things like living independently, improving their social environment, improving relationships within their families, and then they actually allocated funding for those particular goals. So again, you can see that could be quite complicated, because if someone has this amazing goal of living independently and they have funding for it, how on earth do they go about having the housing plan, then finding the accommodation, then finding 2 other people that need to share that specialized accommodation with them? And even things like social, that's a big part of the funding in somebody's plan. And, how do you actually translate that funding into an activity where you're able to meet people or get out into the community? So nothing like this was there before. So we're breaking new ground. We really have.
And how large is the organization to date? Is it just yourself and Nicole, or?
Oh goodness, no, not anymore. Thank goodness. A startup is hard work, and that will certainly influence my chat about accessiBe's, who's been so helpful for a small organization. But there was just 2 of us. We started this self-funded. We're on about 12 now that are outside of the development team. I have a separate development team that works on MyCareSpace platform. And we've been very fortunate in that we've received a grant from the Australian government, from the Department of Social Services, to help us prepare for investment. So we will be going to the market next year, February, for social impact investment. So that's, so 12 now, but hopefully, quadrupled by this time next year.
Very, very exciting, and I'm wishing you the best of luck in your growth plans. Bianca, what is an achievement that you're most proud of? You talk about you didn't really speak so much already about your career to date, prior to MyCareSpace, but what is it at MyCareSpace? Is it the growth? Is it the services? Is it something, even a story? So I'd love to hear that from you.
There's so many. It sounds really trite, but working in a space where doing really small things can have such a massive impact is overwhelming at times. There's been a couple of real standouts. Obviously, actually creating MyCareSpace has been an incredible achievement for Nicole and myself. We have had another amazing achievement, and that is the A-list. So I mentioned that we chat to families every day looking for funding or looking for activities to use their funding on. And what was really the standout was that it was mums and dads and grannies looking for social options for autistic children. The autism community is the largest in the NDIS funding arena, and many autistic children receive funding, most autistic children receive funding for social and community activities. And those young people might be as young as 7 and as old as 25. And trying to find those social options was what so many families were doing every day. So we thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was this place you could go to just to find social options for young autistic people? Now I thought, I don't know what I was thinking really, how hard can it be? We do directories. MyCareSpace is, in effect, a directory platform. Surely we can build one that just brings in providers that support young autistic people in a social activity, whether it's a group activity, whether it's just a meetup or an interest group. So we decided to apply for a grant for this new project called the A-List, and we went directly to the NDIS itself, but we knew, being a startup, they would never even look at us. But we were extremely well connected with one of the big peak bodies, and by well connected I mean we really liked them and they really liked us, and we'd been supporting each other's work, and they agreed to auspice us. So they put their very big name on our very ambitious project, and we got $1 million from the National Disability Insurance Scheme to build the A-List. So I would have to say that that has been our biggest achievement at MyCareSpace, and it launched last month. So we completely underestimated the amount of work it would be. We brought it in-house. There was no way we were going to let anybody else touch our baby. And it was really, really the most incredible experience, seeing that there are actually so many activities out there. I mean, I have llamas, experience with llamas, horse riding, surfing, Dungeons and Dragons, Minecraft. There are so many social and group activities available for young autistic individuals that you just wouldn't know were out there. So we've got about 160 options inside the A-List when it launched, and that's just going to have to keep growing as we come across, or as new providers come to us now, because now people are getting to know and they want to reach the disability community. A lot of mainstream organizations that really only have to make a few accommodations to make their options autism friendly. So the A-List is certainly now, after MyCareSpace, the biggest achievement we have to date, and the number of parents that come to us and say, wow, this is amazing, this is what we need, I've been looking for so long. Those little stories just keep cementing our belief in what an incredible project it is. So yeah, I'd have to say launching the A-List is probably the biggest success we've had to date at MyCareSpace.
Wow, that was a phenomenal answer. Thank you. When I think of it, it's merging getting an idea off the ground, which is a challenge. Raising funds is a challenge, but what even the most challenging out of all those things is raising funds to create an impact and creating a lasting impact. So having that loop of taking something off the ground and then hearing that feedback every day must be something really, really heartwarming, truly. And on that topic, I wanted to ask, everyone has a different definition of accessibility, and I ask this question to really everybody I interview because I always look forward to hearing what they have to say. So Bianca, what does accessibility mean to you from your perspective and given your experiences?
You know, I think for us, it actually just means having the same opportunity as everybody else. And that's often the one thing that's really missing in the disability community. And again, I've said I don't have a disability myself. I haven't had to have those struggles or be faced with elements of not being able to access, whether it's something online, whether it's a physical location, but just talking to people, which is what I do a great deal. And sometimes it's little things. Booking a holiday that is accessible and getting there and you can't get your husband's wheelchair through the bathroom door. You know, those kind of things. Like, I can't even imagine what that might be like as a family where you book this event and everybody's there. It's something that is, being able to get into the bathroom is usually a really big deal in any family. Whether now you're in a wheelchair and you can't get through the door, that must be just heartbreaking. And I think the worst part about it is that there's actually this expectation that things will be inaccessible. So for us, I think it just means giving everybody the same opportunity, and whether that's access to supports, services, or whether that's physical access into buildings, or even just being able to use a website. I think it's such a broad term, but just giving people the same opportunities is what it means for us.
Thank you, Bianca, and I couldn't agree more with the broad terminology that you use. I think talking about access is so important, also realizing that accessibility is something that transcends physical, mental, societal, and of course, also on the internet where we spend a lot of our time. So Bianca, I wanted to really thank you for telling us about MyCareSpace, and really so I could learn and the other listeners out there can learn more about MyCareSpace. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Great. Thanks, Dylan.